Silence louder than words' sun was high over the Los Angeles hills, but inside the studio, the air felt heavy. Cameras blinked, lights buzzed, and crew members shuffled with half-hearted smiles. This was supposed to be just another filming. Day one of many on a new emotional drama starring Keanu Reeves and Ana de Armas. But something subtle was already off. And Keanu felt it before anyone said a word. Ana walked in quietly that morning, her hair tied in a loose braid, wearing a soft blue sweater and jeans. She looked calm, but Keanu had worked with her long enough to read the signals others missed. Her eyes didn't hold their usual brightness. She nodded at the crew with a polite smile, but never once looked up fully. Something had happened, something no one dared speak of yet. Keanu, sitting by the monitors, with his script in hand, closed it without reading a single line. He watched Ana head to the makeup chair, and the way she folded her hands in her lap made his chest tighten. Not because of anything obvious, but because she was holding herself in, and that was never a good sign. Moments later, the director, a fast-talking man named Carter, clapped his hands loudly. "Let's pick it up today, folks. Scene 23, emotional confrontation." Keanu, Ana, ready to roll in 5. Keanu nodded once. Ana simply blinked and stood up. She walked to her mark slowly, eyes cast downward, avoiding everyone's gaze. She didn't speak unless spoken to. Her usual warmth, the little things like offering a water bottle to a crew member or laughing during the mic check, was gone. Cameras rolled as the scene began. Ana had a long emotional monologue to deliver. Her character was breaking, finally revealing years of pain. But halfway through the first take, her voice cracked. Not in a performance way, but in a real, raw, human way. "Cut," Carter barked. "Ana, that was too soft. We need pain, not hesitation." Ana looked down and simply nodded. No defense, no reaction, just silence. Keanu took a breath. He glanced at the assistant director, then at the camera crew. No one moved. No one said a word. And yet everyone saw it. They just didn't want to deal with it. They tried again. This time, Ana said her lines. But something was missing. Her rhythm was off. She kept glancing to the side toward Carter, toward the producers, like she was bracing for impact. After the third failed take, Carter slammed his script down. "For God's sake, Ana, have you even rehearsed this? You're wasting everyone's time?" The room fell into stunned silence. Crew members paused, waiting to see what would happen. Ana froze, her lips parting slightly, but she didn't speak. She stood there in the middle of the set, as if someone had just unplugged the life out of her. Keanu stepped forward. Not fast, not loud, just steady. He turned toward Carter. "Don't," he said quietly. Carter scoffed. "What?" Keanu's voice didn't change. "Don't speak to her like that." Carter threw his hands up. "Keanu, we're losing light. We're behind schedule. She's not delivering." Keanu looked back at Ana. She still hadn't moved. Still hadn't spoken. And that broke something inside him. He walked to her side, slow and respectful. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder, not for the cameras, but just so she would know someone was there. "You okay?" he whispered. She shook her head. Just once, barely. That was enough. Keanu turned back to the director. "Hey?" "Walking off set," he said, "until she gets an apology." Gasps rippled across the crew. Carter laughed nervously. "You're kidding." Keanu didn't answer. He removed his mic, handed it to the nearest sound guy, and walked toward the exit. And that's when Ana finally whispered something. It was quiet, but it landed like thunder. "Thank you," she said. It wasn't just gratitude, it was relief. Asterisk, asterisk. Outside, the sun was still shining, but Keanu didn't feel its warmth. He sat on the edge of the lot near the trailers, head bowed slightly. Odd. Phone buzzed with calls from producers. He didn't pick up. He didn't need to. He had seen what no one else saw. Or maybe they had all seen it, but only he had cared enough to act. Inside the studio, Carter stood frozen. Ana was still on set, hands trembling. Young intern brought her a cup of water, but her fingers barely held it steady. Someone finally said, We should stop for the day. And for once, Carter didn't argue. Asterisk, asterisk, later that evening, Keanu received a message. It was a simple text from Anna. I was holding in tears all morning. I didn't want to seem weak, but you made it safe to feel. He read it twice, heart heavy. The world would never know the full weight behind those words. It would only see the headlines. Keanu Reeves walks off set. Maybe they'd gossip. Maybe they'd speculate. But they wouldn't know the truth. They wouldn't know that sometimes kindness isn't loud. Sometimes it's not a speech. Sometimes it's standing beside someone when no one else will. And that's what Keanu did, not because he wanted attention, but because Anna mattered, and that was enough for him. The phone call that changed everything. Next morning, the studio lot looked the same from the outside, but inside, something had shifted. The makeup trailer was quiet. The wardrobe team whispered instead of joked. Even the sound crew, usually cracking jokes over coffee, stayed tense. Anna didn't arrive at her usual time. Keanu knew she wouldn't, not after yesterday, and he didn't blame her. If anything, he hoped she would take more time. But Hollywood didn't wait. And Carter had already set up the call sheet, trying to move forward without her. We'll shoot around her scenes, Carter said to the producers. She'll come back when she's ready. Or we'll rewrite. The show must go on. Keanu sat in the corner of the set, script in hand, but he didn't look at it. He was waiting, not for a cue but for a sign. A reason to stay. He didn't have to wait long. His phone buzzed. A message from Anna. Can we talk? He stood up immediately and stepped away from the set, out into the back lot where the trailers cast long shadows under the morning sun. He called her. Hey, he said gently. The moment she picked up, there was a long pause on the other end. Then a small, broken voice. I almost didn't call. I'm glad you did, he said. I didn't sleep, she whispered. I kept replaying everything. How he looked at me. How no one said anything. I started thinking maybe I really was the problem. Keanu closed his eyes. You're not? Don't ever believe that. But they all acted like it was normal. Like I was just being too sensitive. I felt so stupid. You weren't stupid, he said softly. You were alone. And you shouldn't have been. Anna went quiet again. Then she asked the question that hurt him most. Why did you stand up for me? Keanu didn't answer right away. He leaned against the trailer wall, staring at the ground. Because I know what it feels like to be ignored, to be hurting, and have people pretend you're fine. And I saw you trying so hard to keep it together. I just couldn't stay quiet. I'm probably mad at you now. That doesn't matter. It does to me. Keanu smiled faintly. What matters to me is how you feel. Another silence. Then she whispered, I want to come back, but I'm scared. Keanu nodded, though she couldn't see him. Then let's come back together. Asterisk, asterisk by the afternoon. Word had spread. Keanu was returning to set, but only with Anna. The mood shifted quickly. Producers scrambled. PR teams whispered behind closed doors. Someone called Carter into a meeting. He walked out of it looking less confident. Keanu arrived an hour later. When he stepped out of his car, the crew looked up. Some nodded, some looked away. But everyone felt it. The energy was different now. Then Anna stepped out of the passenger side. She wore a plain white blouse and jeans. Her hair was tied back. No makeup, no glam team, just her, raw and real. The entire lot went still. And then one by one, people made space for her. Keanu walked beside her the whole way. Not a step ahead, not a step behind. Equal asterisk, asterisk. The moment they reached the set, Carter stepped forward. His face was tight, unsure. He opened his mouth, but Keanu held up a hand. Let's be clear, Keanu said. This isn't just about yesterday. This is about how people are treated when the cameras aren't rolling. If we're going to work together, we treat each other with respect. Carter forced a nod. Of course, Keanu looked at Anna. She deserves an apology. Carter hesitated, then finally said, I'm sorry, Anna. I was out of line. Anna didn't say anything for a long moment. Then she gave a quiet nod. Not forgiveness, not yet. But acknowledgement, thank you, she said softly. Asterisk, asterisk. They rehearsed quietly. No shouting, no pressure. Keanu stayed close, guiding her through the lines. Every time she stumbled, he gave her space to breathe. No one rushed her. And when they rolled the cameras, something changed. Anna spoke her lines again, but this time, they didn't sound like acting. They sounded like truth. Her voice trembled in the best way. Her eyes shimmered not because she forced it, but because she was finally allowed to feel. And when the scene ended, the crew didn't say cut. They clapped. Real applause. Not polite. Not staged. Just real. Anna lowered her head, hiding the tears. And Keanu placed a hand gently on her back, steady and warm. Asterisk, asterisk, that night. Anna texted him again. You didn't just stand up for me. You reminded me who I am. Keanu replied with just one word. Always. Asterisk, asterisk. But behind the scenes, the story was spreading. The headlines were starting to build, and not everyone liked that Keanu had taken a stand, especially the studio executives' ending line. When kindness becomes a 3DB the next morning, it wasn't just a behind-the-scenes moment anymore. The first headline appeared on a gossip site. Keanu Reeves halts filming over drama with co-star Ana de Armas. Then came another Ana. De Armas melts down on set. Keanu intervenes. Keanu sat on his porch, sipping plain black coffee, watching the damage unfold on his phone screen. The stories twisted what happened. They painted Ana as fragile. They called his actions unprofessional. Worst of all, they made it sound like a scandal. Not once did they talk about the disrespect. Not once did they talk about the silence. From everyone else, his phone buzzed. Hey, he's agent. Hey, you've seen the coverage? His agent asked, his voice cautious. Yeah, Keanu replied. They're trying to spin this, the agent said. They're nervous. Execs are meeting this afternoon. Keanu didn't answer right away. Are they blaming Ana? He asked. There was a pause. They're saying the production suffered because of emotions getting in the way. They're not naming names, but you know how this works. Keanu set the coffee down slowly. They should be more careful with their words, he said quietly. You sure you want to keep fighting this? The agent asked. You've done your part. The internet moves on fast. You don't want to risk your own standing. Keanu already knew the answer. This isn't about me. Asterisk, asterisk. Meanwhile, Ana sat alone in her apartment, her phone buzzing nonstop with messages from friends, reporters, and strangers. Most were supportive, but a few weren't. People questioned her professionalism. Some accused her of using Keanu's name to get sympathy. It was like being hurt twice. She read one comment that stuck in her throat. This is why women shouldn't be in emotional roles. They can't handle the pressure. She dropped her phone and covered her face. The tears came quickly. Not because the words were true, but because deep down, some small voice inside her had already started to believe them. But just as the darkness crept in, her phone lit up again. This time it wasn't a headline. It was a message from Keanu. I'm standing with you. Not just for now. For as long as it takes. Ana wiped her eyes, and for the first time in days, she smiled. Asterisk, asterisk, at the studio. The mood had shifted again. The crew knew something was coming. Executives walked through the set with tight lips and sharp eyes. Carter kept glancing toward the office window where the producers were huddled in serious conversation. Finally, just before noon, the decision was made. Keanu was called into the office. Ana wasn't invited. He entered the room without hesitation. 5 men and 1 woman sat at the long table. The head producer, Martin, didn't waste time. Keanu, we appreciate your commitment, but the headlines are affecting the project. This was supposed to be a quiet production. We've already lost 1 sponsor. Keanu stayed quiet. We're considering a reset. New energy. Maybe replacing the director. Maybe even replacing the co-lead. Keanu narrowed his eyes. You mean Ana? Martin hesitated. We're looking at all options.
Good luck.
At this one, Keanu said, if Ana leaves, I leave too. The room froze. Martin frowned. Keanu, come on. Keanu said in a tough spot. No, Keanu said calmly. You put yourselves there when you let someone insult her in front of the crew and did nothing. The headlines wouldn't exist if someone had just said, sorry before I had to. You're risking a lot, Martin said. Could walk away from millions. I already have what matters, Keanu said. I'm not going to lose that by staying silent. Asterisk, asterisk, back on set. Anna sat quietly by the lighting rig. She knew something was happening. But no one told her anything. Then the office door opened, and Keanu stepped out. He walked over to her, steady and calm. He knelt down beside her and looked her in the eyes. They tried to replace you, he said gently. Anna's breath caught. What? She whispered. I said no. You said no to the studio. Keanu smiled faintly. You're not going through this alone. Anna didn't speak. Her lips trembled. And then she laughed a tiny broken laugh that turned into a cry. Keanu sat beside her and let her lean into him, her head against his shoulder. In that moment, no one was watching. No cameras. No media. Just two people choosing courage over comfort. Asterisk, asterisk. But the fight wasn't over. The studio couldn't fire Keanu, but they could try something else. Leaks, stories, quiet whispers meant to push Anna out without ever saying the words, and soon, the worst headline of all appeared. Sources say Ana de Armas created a toxic environment on set. Anna saw it that night, and this time, the pain wasn't quiet. It broke her, and she nearly gave up everything. She almost walked away, for Avrana stood in front of her mirror, her reflection blurry with tears. The article had gone viral. Not just a rumor now, but a trending topic. Her name was being dragged through the mud by people who didn't even know her. Hashtags painted her as difficult, unstable, and too emotional for Hollywood. They didn't care that she had worked every day with quiet discipline. Didn't care that she had stayed on set even when she felt like collapsing. They didn't care that she had never raised her voice, never acted entitled. All it took was one twisted story to erase years of effort. She turned off her phone. She couldn't read another word. Her manager had called earlier. Anna didn't answer. She already knew what they would say. Lay low. Don't respond. Let it pass. But it wasn't passing. It was crushing her. Anna reached for her suitcase and placed it on the bed. She started folding clothes, not even thinking clearly, just reacting. Each shirt she packed felt like one step further away from who she had fought to become. Her hands trembled as she zipped the bag. She looked around her apartment one last time. Now the script sat unopened on the table. A framed picture of her first movie premiere stood beside it. But she couldn't feel proud anymore, only tired, only broken. She picked up her coat. Then there was a knock at the door. Soft, patient. Anna didn't move. Another knock. Anna, it was Keanu's voice. She hesitated. Her heart ached at the sound of it. I know you're there, he said gently. Can I come in? Slowly her feet moved toward the door. She unlocked it and opened it partway. Keanu stood there, holding a small brown bag. Nothing fancy, just takeout from a local diner. I brought your favorite, he said, grilled cheese. With tomato soup? Anna almost laughed. Her eyes were still red. Her lips were chapped from crying. But he wasn't looking at her with pity. He was looking at her like she mattered. You saw it? She asked. He nodded. Yeah, it's everywhere, she whispered. They're ruining me. No, Keanu said, stepping inside gently. They're trying to, but they can't ruin who you are. Anna sat down slowly on the couch. Keanu placed the bag on the coffee table and sat beside her. I was packing, she admitted. I know. I was going to leave the country. It figured. Anna looked at him, eyes full of defeat. I can't fight this, Keanu. I'm just one person. They're powerful. They own the story. Keanu leaned forward, elbows on his knees. He looked at the floor for a moment, then spoke in a quiet voice. Do you remember when we wrapped our first film together? He asked. Anna nodded faintly. Yeah, we were exhausted. You said something to me that day, Keanu continued. You said you never know how much someone is carrying until they break, and even then, they still try to smile. Anna blinked. She remembered saying it, but she didn't expect him to. You were talking about someone else, he said. But it stuck with me, because I saw it in you too. Every day. The way you smiled even when the camera stopped. The way you stayed kind when others weren't. I've worked with hundreds of people, and very few have the strength you do. Anna covered her face again. But this time, the tears were quiet. You're not weak for breaking, Keanu said. You're human, and you're allowed to feel hurt. But please don't walk away because of their lies. Then what do I do? She asked in a broken whisper. Keanu reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Read this. He, said Anna, unfolded it. It was a letter. It's written by a lighting technician from the set. Dear Anna, I was there that day. And I didn't say anything when I should have. I saw how he treated you, and it wasn't right. I want you to know that I believe you, and I'm sorry for staying silent. If you ever feel alone, please remember there were people watching who wished they had your strength. Anna's hand shook. Keanu placed another letter beside it, this one from a costume assistant, and another from a makeup artist. They had all written to her, quietly off the record, because her courage had moved them. They didn't want to post it online, Keanu said. They just wanted you to know they saw you, and they stand with you. Anna let the letters fall into her lap. She wasn't alone. She never really was. Asterisk, asterisk, the next day, Anna returned to set. She didn't wear makeup. She didn't dress to impress. She walked in as herself, still healing, still hurting, but no longer hiding. Some of the crew clapped when she arrived. Others simply nodded. But there was no longer awkward silence. Keanu was waiting near the camera. When she walked up to him, he smiled. You came back, Anna smiled through watery eyes. Yeah, but only because of you. Keanu shook his head. Not because of me, because you remembered who you are. Asterisk, asterisk. They rehearsed again, scene after scene. Each take was better than the last. The chemistry between them was undeniable, but more than that, was real. Every line held truth. Every pause felt earned. And Carter, now under close watch, said nothing but thank you after each scene. Even the studio execs, now watching the backlash against their leaked smear story, backed off. Anna's strength had become something bigger. A message, one that said, you can't silence kindness, and you can't erase truth. Asterisk, asterisk that night. Keanu walked her to her car. She leaned against the door and looked up at the stars. You know, she said softly, I thought this story would break me. It didn't, Keanu replied. You helped me survive it. He looked at her with quiet respect. You didn't survive it. You transformed it, Anna smiled. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like running. She felt like standing still, like standing strong. She finally found her voice a week later. Something strange happened. The media started to change its tone. A popular journalist posted a long thread defending Anna. It included anonymous quotes from crew members who described what really happened. On set, the thread went viral. Then, a well-known actress reposted it, adding her own words. I've worked with Anna. She's professional, kind, and brave. Shame on anyone who tried to silence her. Suddenly, things shifted. People who had stayed silent before started speaking up. One by one, actors, assistants, and even camera operators came forward to say what they had seen. And every one of them told the same truth. Thana had been disrespected. But she never disrespected anyone in return. The hashtags changed #West and with Anna began trending. Keanu saw it all quietly. He didn't speak to the press. He didn't post on social media. He didn't need to. His actions had already spoken louder than words. But the truth was, he had been preparing something. Asterisk, asterisk, Anna received a call that afternoon. It was from the organizers of a respected film event that focused on human dignity in entertainment. We'd like to invite you to speak, the woman on the other end said. Just 5 minutes. We think your story matters. Anna was stunned. Me? Speak. Yes, the woman said kindly. Because you stood up, and people listened. Anna hesitated. The thought of standing on a stage in front of cameras made her stomach turn. But then she remembered something Keanu had told her. Sometimes silence protects, But sometimes, silence gives them permission to keep hurting people. So she said yes. The night of the event, Anna stood backstage holding the microphone with both hands. She wore a simple black dress. No earrings, no glitter. Just her. Keanu arrived quietly. He didn't come through the front. He entered through the back and waited in the wings, just out of sight. It's not to be seen, just to be there. When her name was called, Anna stepped into the light. The room fell quiet. Thousands watched in person. Millions watched through live stream. She began slowly. A few weeks ago, I almost left everything behind. Her voice trembled, but she kept going. I thought if I stayed quiet, the pain would go away. I thought maybe it was my fault. I was just too sensitive, too emotional, too weak. She paused, looking out at the audience. But then someone stood beside me. Not in front of me, not above me, beside me. And he reminded me that kindness is not weakness, that silence is not safety. And that respect isn't something we should beg for, it's something every human deserves. The audience held its breath. This isn't just my story. It's the story of anyone who's been told to smile when they're hurting, to act stronger when they're already carrying too much. And I want to say this clearly. She looked directly into the cameras. You don't have to stay silent to survive. You are not alone. The room exploded with applause, but Anna didn't cry this time. She stood tall. And when she stepped off the stage, Keanu was there waiting. He didn't say anything. He just hugged her. The next morning. Not a de armas. Redefines strength in viral speech. Keanu Reeves. Quiet support speaks volumes. Again, this is how you change Hollywood, one act of courage at a time. Anna's inbox overflowed with invitations. Talk shows, interviews, collaborations. But she said no to all of them. Instead, she posted a single video. It was just her sitting on a bench in a public park, dressed casually, no makeup. The wind ruffled her hair. The camera shook slightly as if someone was holding it with their hands, and in the video she said, "This isn't about me. It's about making sure no one else feels like they have to go through it alone. If you've ever been silenced, hurt, or made to feel small, you deserve to be heard. And if no one else is standing beside you, I will." The video reached millions, not because of production value, but because it was real. And sometimes, real is all the world is waiting for. Back on set. Filming resumed. This time it felt different. The crew treated each other with more kindness. The director, though still firm, had softened. Producers watched quietly but respectfully, and in every scene she filmed, Anna carried a new kind of power. Not the kind written in the script, but the kind earned through pain. Courage and choice, Keanu often watched her work with quiet pride. He didn't need credit. He never wanted it. He just wanted her to rise, and she did. Not because he saved her, but because he stood still long enough for her to save herself. Late one night. After a long shoot, they sat together on the steps outside. The studio, no lights, no noise. Just the cool air and the soft sound of wind moving through the trees. Do you regret it? Anna asked quietly. What? Keanu replied. Walking off that day. Putting yourself in the middle of it. Keanu looked at the sky for a moment, then he said, The only thing I regret is that you were ever made to feel like you didn't matter. If standing beside you fixed even one piece of that, then I'd do it all over again. Anna looked at him and smiled. Not because it was over, but because it was just beginning. The day the whole set stood up, final week of filming arrived with a strange calm in the air. The storm had passed, but its memory still lived quietly in the space between the cameras and lights. Anna walked onto the set in the early morning light. Her shoulders steady, her heart full. Not long ago, this same place had felt like a battlefield. Now, it felt like something else, a place reclaimed. Crew members greeted her with warm nods. The makeup artist hugged her. Even the grip, who barely spoke to anyone, offered her a shy smile. She had survived the silence. But now she was about to do something more. She was going to end this story the way she chose. The final scene of the movie was a heavy one. Her character had to confront deep betrayal. It was emotional, exhausting. It would require everything she had. The set was fully quiet, no phones, no distractions. Carter, the director, stood back, his tone softer than ever. "Take your time, Anna," he said. "We're with you." Anna looked across the set to Keanu. He gave her the smallest nod, just enough to remind her he was still beside her. She stepped into the light. The camera began to roll, and when she spoke, it was no longer just acting. Her voice shook, but it was powerful. "You didn't break me," she said, looking straight into the lens. "You tried, but you forgot something. I wasn't standing alone." The final line of the scene wasn't even in the script, but no one called. Cut. They just watched, some with tears in their eyes, some with hands pressed over their mouths. And when the last word fell into the air like a final breath, a silence broke. The entire set clapped real applause. No one told them to. No one planned it. They just felt it. They stood up not for a performance, but for a person. Anna stood still, overwhelmed, her hands trembling, her eyes full. And Keanu walked up slowly. He didn't say a word. He simply reached out and pulled her into a quiet embrace. They stood there for a long moment. No camera rolling now, no headlines watching, just the truth. Two people who had refused to be silent when it mattered. Asterisk, asterisk, 3 days later. The film wrapped, and on the last day, something remarkable happened. Every crew member, every assistant, every costume designer, every camera operator wore a shirt with a simple message printed in soft gray letters. "Kindness is louder than power." Anna laughed when she saw it. Tears rolled down her cheeks before she could stop them. Someone handed her a folded piece of paper. It was a thank you card signed by the entire crew. "You changed the way we work," it read, "and the way we treat each other." Anna pressed the card to her chest and looked around. The same set that had once made her feel invisible was now glowing with something stronger than lights. Respect. Asterisk, asterisk, a few weeks later. The film premiered. The audience rose for a standing ovation before the credits even rolled. But when the media asked Anna about the performance, she didn't talk about her acting. She talked about the power of being seen, the strength of having one person believe in you, and the courage it takes to speak when your voice is shaking. Keanu stood beside her the whole time, quiet, solid, proud. Asterisk, asterisk, months passed. The film earned nominations, interviews, and attention. But the story that people remembered wasn't just what happened in the movie. It was what happened behind it. The moment when Keanu Reeves walked off set not to make a scene, but to stop. The moment when Anna didn't let silence steal her worth. The moment when an entire team chose kindness over convenience. Asterisk, asterisk, years later. Anna was invited to speak at a film school. A young student asked her, "What was the hardest role you ever played?" Anna smiled gently. "Myself," she said. "In a world that tried to tell me to be quieter, smaller, easier to control." "What helped you keep going?" another student asked. Anna looked out the window for a second, then answered with warmth in her voice. "One person," she said, "who stood beside me when I couldn't stand on my own." Asterisk, asterisk in the audience. Someone recorded her words and uploaded them online. The video went viral. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was true in truth. When spoken with kindness, travels farther than any performance ever could. Asterisk, asterisk, the story didn't end when filming wrapped. It lived on. In every person who saw what happened and chose to speak up next time, in every actress who didn't walk away, in every quiet soul who learned that silence is not the same as peace. Anna de Armas didn't just finish a film. She found her voice. And Keanu Reeves reminded the world of something it had almost forgotten. Asterisk, asterisk. That real strength is not about shouting. It's about knowing when to stand up and who to stand beside. Asterisk, asterisk.